Good evening. Tonight we're witnessing a pivotal moment in Washington, one that could have far-reaching consequences not just for the United States, but for the global community as well. A major development is unfolding on Capitol Hill. A new Russia sanctions bill is rapidly gaining momentum, drawing attention from both sides of the aisle and from international observers. This isn't just another piece of legislation. It's a direct response to escalating tensions and a renewed sense of urgency among lawmakers. As diplomatic efforts to resolve the conflict in Ukraine continue to stall, lawmakers are stepping up their efforts to pressure Moscow. The stakes are higher than ever, with peace talks faltering and the humanitarian crisis deepening. This bill represents a significant shift in strategy, signaling that the U.S. is prepared to use every tool at its disposal to influence the outcome. The legislation, which has been in development for over a year, has suddenly become a top priority after President Trump's recent and vocal endorsement. His support has injected new energy into the process, rallying both supporters and critics to engage in a heated debate over the bill's potential impact. With bipartisan leaders now signaling a sense of urgency rarely seen in recent years, Congress is preparing to act swiftly and decisively. Their goal: to cripple Russia's ability to finance its ongoing war by targeting the economic lifelines that have allowed Moscow to weather previous rounds of sanctions. The bill is designed to close critical loopholes that have enabled Russia to continue funding its military operations, particularly through the redirection of energy exports. Lawmakers are determined to ensure that sanctions are not just symbolic, but truly effective in cutting off the resources fueling the conflict. Senator Lindsey Graham, one of the chief architects of the legislation, has made it clear that this time, the bill is never going back on the shelf. His words reflect a broader sentiment in Congress, that the time for half measures is past and decisive action is needed. As Congress returns from recess, the Russia sanctions bill is set to dominate both debate and legislative action in the coming weeks. Lawmakers are bracing for intense negotiations, with the eyes of the world watching to see how the U.S. will respond to one of the most pressing international crises of our time. The stakes could not be higher. At risk is not only the balance of power in Ukraine, but also the credibility of economic pressure as a tool for achieving peace. As the world waits, the decisions made in Washington over the next few weeks may well shape the future of the conflict and the prospects for peace in ways we have yet to fully understand. To understand this bill, let's break down what sanctions really are, and why they matter so much in today's world. Sanctions are more than just a set of rules. They're powerful tools that governments use to influence the actions of other countries, especially when diplomacy alone isn't enough. At their core, sanctions are economic penalties designed to change a nation's behavior without resorting to military force. They can take many forms, from restricting trade to freezing financial assets, and are often used to send a clear message. Certain actions have serious consequences. Sanctions can freeze assets, ban trade, or block access to global financial systems, making it hard for a country to operate internationally. When a nation is cut off from the world's banking networks or can't sell its goods abroad, its economy can quickly feel the strain. This pressure is meant to force leaders to reconsider their choices. For Russia, the main target is its energy sector: oil, gas, and uranium, which are the backbone of its economy and a major source of funding for its military operations. By focusing on these critical exports, sanctions aim to hit Russia where it hurts most: its ability to finance conflict. By restricting these exports, the U.S. and its allies hope to cut off the Kremlin's war chest, making it much harder for Russia to sustain its military campaign. The idea is to limit the resources available for war, while signaling to the world that aggression comes at a steep price. Sanctions work best when many nations join in, creating real isolation. When countries act together, through organizations like the United Nations or the G7, the impact is multiplied, making it much more difficult for the targeted nation to find loopholes or alternative partners. This bill goes even further, penalizing countries and companies that help Russia evade restrictions. It's not just about direct trade, it's about closing every possible backdoor, making sure that sanctions can't be easily bypassed through third parties or secret deals. The ultimate goal is clear: make the war in Ukraine too expensive for Russia to continue. By raising the economic costs of conflict, the hope is to shorten the war and reduce suffering on the ground. Lawmakers see this as a strategic high-stakes move, leveraging the global economy to force change. It's a way to use financial influence as a form of pressure, rather than relying solely on military might. Ultimately, it's a calculated effort to bring Russia to the negotiating table through economic pain, not just diplomacy. By tightening the screws on Russia's economy, the international community hopes to create the conditions for peace, showing that in today's interconnected world, economic tools can be just as powerful as any weapon. This sanctions push is a rare case of bipartisan unity in Washington. Senators Lindsey Graham and Richard Blumenthal, Republican and Democrat, have built a bill with over 80 co-sponsors from both parties. The turning point, President Trump's endorsement, which catapulted the bill to the top of the agenda. His support signals to Congress that this is a White House priority, aligning legislative and executive branches. Senator Graham says the bill now has the momentum it needs. Senator Blumenthal is very, very encouraged by the president's backing. With this alliance, pressure is on congressional leaders to act fast. On Russia, Washington's most influential voices are speaking in unison. The bill's core mission: dismantle Russia's ability to fund its war in Ukraine. Lawmakers are targeting Russia's energy sector, oil, gas, and uranium, the main source of revenue for its military. The strategy: impose steep tariffs on countries buying Russian energy, making it more expensive and less attractive. This goes beyond previous sanctions by hitting third-party buyers, not just U.S. companies. The aim is to shrink Russia's customer base and choke off export income. By targeting all three key exports, the bill creates a comprehensive economic blockade. Supporters believe this direct hit on Russia's finances will force Putin to reconsider his war strategy. It's economic pressure designed to bring Russia to the negotiating table. The bill's impact hinges on China and India, two of the world's fastest-growing economies and now central players in the global energy market. Their decisions will not only affect their own energy security, but also the effectiveness of Western sanctions on Russia. As the world's most populous nations, their energy needs are immense, and their choices carry enormous weight on the international stage. In recent years, China and India have become Russia's biggest energy customers, stepping in as Europe reduced its imports. Their ports now receive a steady flow of Russian oil, gas, and coal, fueling industries and keeping prices stable at home. As the West cut back, Moscow turned east, redirecting its vast energy exports to Asian markets. This shift has not only helped Russia maintain its revenues, but also deepened its economic ties with Beijing and New Delhi. Today, China and India together buy nearly 3/4 of Russian energy exports, making them critical lifelines for Moscow's economy. Their continued purchases have blunted the impact of Western sanctions, allowing Russia to keep funding its government and military. The new bill aims to change that by slapping heavy tariffs on these purchases, targeting the profits Russia earns from its Asian partners. The hope is to make Russian energy less attractive and to squeeze Moscow's finances even further. This would force Beijing and New Delhi to make a tough choice, either pay significantly more for Russian oil and gas, or scramble to find new suppliers, likely at higher prices and with more logistical challenges. This puts both countries in a diplomatic bind, balancing their need for affordable energy with the risk of straining relations with the U.S. and its allies. Their leaders must weigh economic benefits against potential political costs. The dilemma is clear: cheap Russian energy versus costly U.S. penalties. For both China and India, energy affordability is crucial for economic growth and social stability, but so is maintaining good relations with the West. The U.S. is betting that, faced with the threat of economic pain, China and India will shift away from Russia, reducing Moscow's ability to fund its war and forcing it to the negotiating table. Their response will determine if the sanctions truly isolate Russia, cutting it off from vital revenue streams, or if Moscow finds new ways to adapt and survive. The stakes are global: energy prices, diplomatic alliances, and the future of international sanctions all hang in the balance. This is no longer just a US-Russia issue, but a test of multinational economic pressure and the ability of the world's largest democracies to influence global events. The outcome will reveal whether coordinated sanctions can truly change state behavior, or if economic interests will always win out. Will China and India comply with the new tariffs, resist them outright, or find creative workarounds to keep Russian energy flowing? Their choices in the coming months will shape not just the bill's real-world impact, but the future of global energy politics and the effectiveness of economic sanctions as a tool of international policy. Despite bipartisan support, a procedural fight is brewing. Should the bill start in the House or Senate? The Constitution says revenue bills, like those imposing tariffs, must begin in the House. Senate leaders want to move first, citing momentum and broad support. House Speaker Mike Johnson prefers a Senate start, arguing the Senate is better equipped for complex foreign policy. Both sides fear delays if the process bogs down in committees. This standoff isn't just technical. It could slow the bill and give Russia time to adapt. The outcome will shape how quickly economic pressure can be applied. The clock is ticking, and every day counts. Urgency defines the push for this sanctions bill. Senator Graham says the need for action is at its peak, with the war grinding on and current policies falling short. President Trump's endorsement has galvanized lawmakers, creating a rare window for swift action. But Congress faces a packed agenda. Funding deadlines and a looming government shutdown compete for attention. The bill's sponsors are determined to keep it front and center. They argue passing it quickly will give the president leverage in peace talks. The next few weeks are critical. Delays could weaken the bill's impact. Lawmakers know the decisions they make now could shape Ukraine's future and the global order. What's next? First, Congress must resolve where the bill starts, House or Senate. Once introduced, it will move through debate, possible amendments, and a vote in both chambers. With strong bipartisan support and the president's backing, passage is likely. Any differences between House and Senate versions must be reconciled before it goes to the president. President Trump is expected to sign, triggering immediate implementation. The Treasury and other agencies will begin tracking Russian energy purchases and levying new tariffs. The world will watch for shifts in energy markets and diplomatic reactions from Moscow, Beijing, and New Delhi. The real test: will this economic pressure force Russia to change course in Ukraine? The answers will shape the future of international security and economic statecraft. This bill is more than legislation. It's a turning point in the West's response to war in Ukraine. Its success or failure will impact millions, set precedents for future conflicts, and test American leadership. By targeting energy trade with China and India, the U.S. is flexing its economic muscle on the world stage. The bipartisan effort shows rare unity, strengthening America's credibility abroad. The outcome will influence global energy, food supplies, and refugee flows. It's a story of power, economics, and diplomacy, one that will help define the world we live in. The world is watching to see if economic pressure can bring peace where diplomacy alone has failed. We'll continue to follow this story as it unfolds, here in Washington and around the globe.